Awesome.
Go.
So, and is it recording now, or do we? Okay.
It's on?
You know, when
Okay.
Okay, we are, just so you know, we're being recorded now.
3:04.
I don't want anyone to think otherwise.
It's just.
Thank you very much.
No, I know, it's a shoestring situation
It
all
is,
the
cause ours
time.
is close to 5, it's 4 something, and at least some examples for things.
Yeah.
Yeah, from those people who get points, it beats paying to take your kid to a private school. See, that's where you're coming at. I mean, it is. Cause they can do it.
Well, I know Jana, Ann was finishing her salad.
Okay.
And she said, don't wait on me, to me, and to Jana. She said that to me as I was walking away. I wasn't going to wait on her. Jana may have decided just to stick with her and keep her company. No, we test it out.
Yeah, get it
Sure.
away from in front of my face.
Is it all the same or?
No, those are Kit Kats. Yeah, I was like, gotta look for a big variety pack, and then I just decided, no, sorry.
Karen, who's the other, business tech person?
Carrie.
Carrie, that's.
She'll be here tomorrow.
From Columbia.
She'll be here
Now,
tomorrow.
Is she business or she's
Well,
She's
that is-
Culinary art.
Yeah, she's
Fast.
She works for
She's
the
fast,
Congress.
you're right,
Oh, okay.
I knew that.
Oh, you don't have to go.
I know, but this will be easy. And then I can just.
I was like, what are you doing over there?
You can go underneath and then do it like
Okay.
that.
Look at that.
Alright,
Lovely.
so,
I already did mine, I already did mine.
thank you for doing that.
These are trees now, you might find out.
Yeah, like I said,
Don't put any more in front of me.
yesterday we were, why did I go, I don't go to Walmart, it's not my favorite place. At all.
And now did you know that they cut off the.
So now I'm not gonna go to Walmart anymore.
Target.
But
Really,
anyway.
what's wrong? Say it again.
She said they
Not
just
for
cut
the people at the very top.
health
Right.
benefits.
Right.
I am just not a fan of them, usually because I don't like enclosed spaces, which is why I tend to sit on the ends of things. So because they put those things in the middle of their aisles, and I just feel like I can't navigate in there, and I get Yes. claustrophobic, and when there's 2 people in an aisle, then I'm like, oh, there's too many people in there. So that's just me. I
You
have,
shouldn't live in a
No
suburb.
Black Friday
I have-
shopping for you.
no, I do not Black
You
Friday.
should
I don't
not
shop.
live in a suburb.
But, you know, anyway,
Target, I don't need it.
I was
We go by
there
Walmart at 7.
yesterday for a reason,
Thursday night.
not for this reason, but I passed the candy, I was like, oh, any candy? And I started looking, and they didn't have any big mixed bags, I was like, I'm grabbing the holiday stuff, it's pretty, it's
I
cute.
volunteer to bring the candy next
I
time,
won't
but you've
see
done it
you,
every time, so I'll
But
bring you
you
next
helped pay for last time.
Well, yeah, but I didn't,
Oh, I
I
know.
can bring it.
And this was cheap, this time.
I'll get mine at Target, but that's okay, it'll be cheap too, I have a Target card for 5%.
My,
Oh, I love that.
Cannot live without that thing.
Okay, so
They
can
offer
I
it in every
start
store.
showing you the stuff? I don't wanna us to,
It'll be here, I would say.
I'm sure they'll
Well, maybe missing 3.
just, yeah.
I didn't hear that Heather wasn't coming back, did anyone hear that Heather wasn't coming back?
The elementary
Oh.
Sykeston rep was not coming back.
No, I knew that, which was why we
Right.
scheduled,
Do they ride together?
I don't know if they were traveling together or what.
I saw the elementary person leave, but didn't see if there was
Oh.
somebody else in the car with her. But she's got that boot on, poor thing.
Should say how that happened.
She said she didn't say how she pulled ligaments,
Yeah.
and she just got the boot on like right before Thanksgiving, so it was finally just to the point where she couldn't walk on anymore. I was like, that's not fun.
Those boots are not fun.
No, that's not a fun way to spend your holiday, okay.
I love Google Classroom.
It's not fun anyway.
It is
She
awesome.
said it just got,
You
started
did what?
hurting more and more, it wasn't one.
Oh, your Google Classroom?
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't used that.
She said there's a bunch of torn ligaments all the time, or pulled ligaments, maybe pulled.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Submit their assignments, it's all in a.
Google just
Yeah,
makes
he
life
loves
so much
that.
easier.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I'm a fan, especially on a day when you're absent.
Uh-huh.
Nothing is easier
That's
than this.
exactly why.
Freaking great.
Oh, come on. Oh, I agree.
And next year when my kids are 1-to-1, it'll be even better.
Oh, yeah. That'll be awesome.
Carrie, could we do the,
You can,
I can have the floor?
you can have the floor.
Okay,
You go right ahead, unless you wanna wait for Jana to come back.
yes, I do.
Is she
she on her way?
Maybe she just went to go
She
to the
just walked in
bathroom,
and walked
right?
back out.
Okay,
Didn't
well,
she
she
just
went
walk
to
in
the
with you?
bathroom.
Yeah, she did. She may have gone to the restroom.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Alright, that's,
It's in
Oh.
focus.
yeah, I don't really know, I don't know.
Yeah.
We can pull it backwards,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
just not, like the power only goes so far, and at this
Oh,
time I don't
it's the
have a power
cord.
strip.
I know.
It's-
There's a
And the
plug-in
one
over
in this
here.
cabinet is like, cause I was gonna plug mine
Last
in
time
and
there
it was
was a
full.
power strip, but this time there's not. Oh, I said I was
I
gonna
bet
bring
we
some.
could get one. I have friends down the hall there, I could go get one from, maybe.
I don't know that they have
Well,
one.
No, I mean in the family and consumer science section, didn't want me to go ask them?
I'll go out and look at tomorrow one.
If they have one, I bet they'll let me have it.
Power strip.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we can
Or
move it
at
further
least
back.
extension.
So it can get bigger.
So we can get, yeah.
Bright bulb.
It is really bright, actually.
Okay, so
Actually looks
here
pretty good.
is an example of what I mean about not being college ready.
Uh-oh.
The people at Blue Springs High School and Blue Springs South, I've asked them to send me the names, and I'm getting a bunch of them. I got the list from the counseling department of students who don't yet meet the cut scores, seniors, 2015 seniors who don't yet meet the cut scores in English and or reading. And it's a sizable number, so they don't have 18 in reading, in English yet, or 22 in reading. And we're starting with English, since it's an easier score to raise. But some of these students, I know, are in the college credit composition class. They have the GPA that
But yeah,
allowed
here's
them to
actually
enroll
the
in that
course.
class.
Oh,
She said she'll
But they can't make
let me
the
know.
cut score
And if she
in
doesn't,
English.
I'll go down the hall.
Which means they would have to take a remedial English class at the community college if they went there. So how the heck? See what I mean? They should not be qualified. It should be a dual qualification where you have to have a certain ACT score and a certain GPA.
To do what? To take one take?
To take one test. Yes, because look, and one way I know, I'm looking at the name of this one kid, this is the list from the woman who was on pregnancy leave the first 2 months
Yeah.
of the year. So I had to grade her papers
Right.
for her essays, the first 2 major essays out of the 4. This kid failed this, and I let him rewrite, and he still failed. And I gave him thorough feedback on what he would need to do in terms of making a claim, supporting the claim, blah, blah, blah. And even marked his conventions errors from all of them. Okay, what the hell? I'm sorry. What the heck? Not being recorded.
You are being recorded.
You are.
Oh, what the heck? Thank you, that's a good thing.
You're being recorded.
Okay, so here's a kid then who crept through somehow to get, and he would not even be permitted to take Composition 101 at community college were he to go there. And yet because he meets the 3.0
Thank you very much.
at Blue Springs. I mean, and I'm not saying, because obviously there are plenty of kids who are maybe not doing great work, who still have a 3.0 GPA there. Well, wouldn't you think they also have a score at Sage and a grade 10? Is it this one?
It's a really interesting number to see.
Yeah, I find it very interesting.
So an 18 and either reading or.
No, an 18 in English is the cut score in English. That's the cut score for being allowed to register in Comp 101 or 110 or 1000 MU or whatever the entry level composition class is. Otherwise, you're thrown into literally you are placed in it's called developmental
English 30.
class that you don't get any credit for. And move your skills up. And see, this is what, and I know I can't, I know the elementary teachers are taking kids where they are and that's what they have to do, but I wish there would be a way, just like I'm sure they wish I could understand better what they deal with and where they are. I appreciate your comment like, oh, poor kindergarten teachers, I
Yeah.
shoot myself for
Oh, yeah.
one of those. But on the other hand, if we don't start some of these skills there, this is what we end up with, and we have kids in pretty good schools not making the cut school to go to 101 English college,
So it's 18 for the English.
and 22 for the reading. And the reading is 3/4, so that's why I asked that question downstairs. 75% of the reading is informational text, and it's not easy text. And that's what they have to get to go to college for 4 credit classes. I mean, there's a bottom line somewhere, you know what I'm saying? It's like, buck stops here. And I just feel bad for the kids. And their parents.
Alrighty.
Okay, Danette has requested, well, she can talk anytime she wants to, but she's requested the floor.
Yeah.
So, we're going to give it to her, because we like her.
Thank you. And I love you all.
So, go ahead, Annette.
Okay, the issue I wanted to talk about was, I was looking at the group chain email about coming up here today, and, I noticed that Jill had sent a text to Carrie that said, Nick Kramer has been removed from the ELA 6 through 12 work group, and the replacement won't be joining us until Tuesday. And I am wondering why this has happened, whose authority, and I don't think there even is an authority to do this. And I really would like for Nick to tell us his qualifications, if they do meet the bill. And I would like for us to discuss, if a replacement shows up tomorrow, what will be our response? I feel like this is personal, a very personal vendetta against Nick. And it has been going on since the beginning of these meetings. And all you have to do is look on any website that anti-Common Core people have, and he is described as everything.
Poor Nick.
But, yes, and my question is, if he can just be removed willy-nilly, who's next?
Yeah, that's a good question, Danette. That's a good question.
Yeah, because that implies that the group can by choice, this could be like the crucible.
Yes,
Sorry, that was
and
a
he is
bad analogy.
He is
You
the
want
only
to choose.
male on this committee. And I think that we will be very gender biased without at least one male.
That's why this is happening.
That's it.
I know, I'm already, as I said this morning, disturbed that we don't have a minority group
Exactly,
represented.
we talked about that at
But
lunch.
now, we would have, it'd be 16 white women.
Yes, 16, and
I'm partly Indian, but.
that doesn't count.
Since women are usually minority.
Okay, so I'd like,
issues.
I'd like to ask Nick, do you fulfill the requirements?
Yeah, and I'll speak to that. I sent an email this morning. I was out of town for Thanksgiving, so I didn't see all the email chains until the last minute today on my way down. I sent an email that kind of explained some of the backstory. I kind of wanted to wait to talk about it in person because it's hard to talk about, you know, when you're not face to face. And I was also kind of waiting to see if the speaker was going to officially do it. So what Jill alluded to, and I'm not sure where she got her information, but Chris Howard, who's the speaker's legislative assistant, had sent me an email a couple of weeks ago informing me that yes, the speaker wanted to remove me and replace me. But since that email, I hadn't heard anything. I hadn't, the state board hadn't heard anything, and Carrie hadn't heard anything as far as like a replacement. So I was kind of waiting just to see, is that really going to go down before I brought it up. But anyway, here's kind of the backstory on it. In October, after we had met the first 2 times, but before we met like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th time, right? I got an email from Chris, and Chris was the same guy that had been handling the selection process, at least for me. He was the one I had talked to beforehand, and he was the one that texted me to say that, yeah, you've been appointed. He emailed me in early October saying that there was some independent auditor that was looking at the credentials of group members, and that I had been flagged as not meeting the requirements listed in the bill, specifically that I didn't have 10 years of teaching experience. And while that statement is true, I don't have 10 years of teaching experience because I've been an administrator for the past 3 years. I do meet it, where it's written in the bill is, it's actually on the 2nd page. It says that an education professional serving on a group shall be a Missouri resident for at least 3 years, lifelong Missouri resident, and have taught in the work group subject area for at least 10 years or have 10 years of experience in that subject area. And I do have 10 years of experience in that subject area. So I responded immediately to Chris with that, informing him that yes, I am indeed, I meet the letter of the law. And I hadn't heard anything back, so I just assumed, that misunderstanding had been cleared up. I continued to participate in the last 4 work group meetings that we had. And then, like I said, about two weeks ago, he sent another email that just said, sorry, the decision's final, this is what we're doing. Didn't really explain why, and I didn't press the issue.
Wait, who sent the email?
Chris Howard, again, the
Oh,
legislative.
Chris.
Yeah, so I don't, again, I have not talked to the speaker's not talked to me, it's all been through him. Since then, though, I did ask around some Missouri legislators and I have a lot of lawyers that are friends, so I just asked them to kind of look at the bill and what they thought of it. What they all said was that while the bill clearly establishes the speaker and the president pro tem and the governor and all the different people in the bill that are named to select work group members, the bill does not explicitly say anything about that those individuals may remove members during the process or replace them with other members. In fact, I'm just going to read it to you real quickly. It says that whenever the State Board of Education develops, modifies, or revises academic performance standards, it shall convene work groups composed of education professionals and parents to develop and recommend those standards. And then later on it says, work group members shall be chosen in such a way as to represent the geographic diversity of the state, and they'll be selected in the following manner. And so then it lists, of course, all the different people. Specifically for me, that 2 education professionals selected by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, in addition to the parent members selected under subdivision 2 of the subsection. So again, it clearly establishes they have the right, of course, that's why we're all here, right, to select people to be part of the group, but it doesn't say anything about once those groups have started. And in fact, the bill also later establishes that October 1st, 2014 was the point by which the group should have been convened. So it doesn't say anything about after the fact. That's kind of where we are. I would contend that I have the right to still be here based on that. But I suppose the speaker might contend that he has the right to remove me and replace me. And if it came to that, the judiciary would have to be the one to ultimately interpret the letter of the law and decide what happens. So, I mean, as far as the committee, it's kind of up to you all, and that's what I offered in this email. I don't want to be a distraction. I feel this whole thing is a distraction of the work we have to do, and I'm happy to step down if that's what you all would like me to do. Conversely, I would love to keep working on the work that we've been doing, and if I guess what would play out is if you want me to keep working and the speaker says that no, I can remove you and replace you, he would need to file a lawsuit seeking an injunction with the court, and the court would have to rule on either yes, you do have that authority and I'm gone, or no, he doesn't have that authority. So yeah, sorry, I'm already distracting us from our mission, but that's
all right.
kind of
No,
my
no,
story.
Right. Well, I don't know what exactly we can do, maybe a vote of confidence for Nick, or what do you all think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like there's some concern that the speaker, to me, I mean, I'm just parsing this, I'll just give you my opinion, it's just an opinion. It sounds like to me that the speaker appointing Nick, the speaker is pretty much anti-Common Core. Nick's been very, straightforward that he likes Common Core, but he's also been, in my opinion, absolutely committed to just doing the work and not with any political agenda that I've ever seen. And I think he's a tremendous value added to our group, that I've learned a lot from Nick. So, I mean, it sounds to me that, that this is a political fight that you're in, and I can't address the legality of any of it, or who's got jurisdiction, but it sounds like you might need some people to let the speaker's office know that you don't have a political agenda. And I think that's probably I'm going straight to the heart of the situation. I'm not cutting any corners and I'm not playing any games. Maybe I'm just paranoid. But that's where I think it is.
Well, and I would also be very willing to advocate for and give my credentials to validate that Nick's knowledge of English language arts at 6 through 12 makes him a stellar inside, and then other people who don't, who bring that perspective on it. And he's one of those people that knows it from the inside, and to me, we have a fairly good balance, and then so we need him to be here.
I agree.
But if this is a challenge that could come up in other committees at other times, I mean, this is the law now, and if the speaker thinks he's able to do this and does it without being questioned, this could happen again and again among the
Right.
8 groups that are
That's my
currently working
concern.
or
That
in the
was
future. So
my
I
point.
think, could we ask Carrie to communicate to the speaker's office, saying that we, word it some way, without authority beyond the speaker's office, we'd have no intention of changing any committee members who are currently working and have been appointed
Or
according to the
recognizing
law.
replacements.
We have no intention of recognizing additional people or replacing any committee members. We don't read the law as seeing that authority exists for anyone.
Well,
I mean, really, there's nothing in the law
What if somebody
that,
shows up tomorrow?
I'd be careful with so I don't think so here's the thing, I'd be careful, I agree with to the sentiment of what you're saying. I'm just, since we're all English 6 through 12, I'm quibbling with the semantics here. It's essentially, I mean, if you wanna test the speaker on his power to remove or recognize, I mean, that's probably not the fight you wanna get in right now. If you wanna support Nick, I would just, I think that a letter would be to, the speaker's office from the group saying, that Nick has been, significant value add to the group. We don't feel like there's been any attempt to lead us in one direction or another. In fact, he's taken a very judicious and, detached approach to some of our more political issues. And, we think he should be allowed to continue. I don't think you're gonna appeal to the speaker who has more power and win that fight.
but the question is bigger than
Yeah.
just Nick.
Yeah.
What if anybody who appoints, we have a lot of different entities appointing. And I think this somehow needs to be clarified
Right.
for everybody, for all people. And maybe, do we as a committee have the authority to dismiss somebody we don't like? I'm just asking these
You have to follow.
rhetorical
Right.
questions, because for the future, because this is now state law, it's gonna happen the next time
Well, my concern
learning
would
standards
be
are addressed.
that but if this does happen this way now, that it sets a precedent for the current
Yes.
work.
Yes.
And so then, anyone can start vying for political gain in some way of saying, okay, well, we acknowledge this person has this way of thinking and we want them off, so we're gonna try to, and I don't know where this all comes from at all, I have no idea, but I'm just thinking it sure does set it up to allow for that then, for people to go to the Missouri State School Board Association
Right.
and say, we're lobbying to get this person off because of what they're doing in the group, I mean, like, we certainly could do that.
It could happen to any one of us.
I kinda hate for this, which seems like, who knows, like, I don't know where it's coming from, but wherever it's coming from, I would hate for this to set a precedent that then more groups, could have this happen throughout the remainder of the year as we address standards in any content area,
I would, you have to decide, but I would say unless a replacement shows up, right, and says, I'm a member of this group, I don't know that it's much of an issue, honestly. I mean, I'm here today, obviously, amidst all of this context, and I'm planning on continue coming until someone tells me I can't. So,
Well, I'm gonna just seek advice from the person that appointed me, to find out what to do. I've contacted, Senator Dempsey's office and asked for, a conversation, and they have contacted me back and said that, when's a good time for you? So as soon as we feel like we have a free moment, I'll try to get in touch with them. I just kind of wanna know, like, what happens when someone else walks in the room tomorrow and says, no, I'm here, no, I'm here, Then we have this disruption beyond this conversation.
Yeah.
It's,
Right.
and it will definitely become,
Yes. Contentious.
yeah, I imagine it would be, cause I would have to say that if it were me, if I was appointed by somebody and said, told to show up to a meeting and I got there and then I walked in and the group said, no, we don't want you here, I don't really know what I would do. I'd probably be pretty angry.
But
So
it's not the group, it's a person.
The
No, I mean like tomorrow, like if I were the
Oh,
person
yeah.
who was
Oh,
being
okay.
appointed to replace
Okay, I
him,
get you.
if I walked in
Yeah.
tomorrow to replace Nick
Yeah.
and the group, I entered the room, the group said, no,
Oh.
you're not, we don't want you here, you're not to be here, and I drove to get here, I might be upset.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
also, I think that, you know, at the end of the day, the speaker's gonna leave, he's
We've got a few weeks left.
You know, he's
Yeah.
a few weeks left. I don't think he's gonna be very much moved by the senator's office telling him what to do. I don't think he's.
Oh, no, I'm not looking
No.
for him to do that
I
either.
don't think he's gonna be very, well, no, I know you're not, but I'm just saying, they might take it upon themselves based on your conversation.
Oh.
I don't think he's gonna be very much moved by, you know, well, what else is gonna happen, cause he's gone, he don't care.
Right.
I think that, you know, if there's an attempt to, I think the question is there an attempt to find out what's gonna happen in the future, if this is just precedent, then we can ask, it might happen again, it might not. I think if the question is, do we want Nick to remain, then the question is, who's gonna call Chris Howard and say, Chris, you know, what's going on, man? This is a little bit bizarre, here's why we think Nick's been a value add. What's going on? Is there, who was it that said there's a problem with Nick? You know, who put the lens on his credentials? And, you know, is there a concern with his participation in the group? And I think that's, if you wanna save Nick, that's what we have to do. You know, if we wanna
Well,
talk
and I
about
think it
future
needs to
scope.
be worded, what is his concern? Because obviously
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
What-
So,
right.
what is the
Exactly.
concern? Tell us
Yeah.
the reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I would say my concern is really twofold, like, don't take Nick off the group, and also don't let this kind of thing happen again. Cause I
Right.
don't want this to continue to be something that could happen again, to either anyone in this room, or not in the room, but could be
Yeah.
either, you know, or on other work groups, like I certainly don't wanna see that be something where we look and go, oh, well, it's that easy, okay.
What
You know?
happens when the new people come in, you know, and they have,
They don't
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
thought you meant.
So that's an excellent-
no.
Yeah, that's a
no.
whole nother.
Right.
What
Get rid
the
of
new
all of
elected
us.
officials, what happens when the new
Right.
elected officials come
Uh-huh.
in and they don't like who was appointed by so-and-so?
This could be musical chairs.
Yeah.
Literally.
And nothing
Well,
would
but
get
again, I
done,
think
that's for sure.
Again, it's my interpretation, but also some people I talk, I mean, it's not in the bill, and I think that's for a reason. I mean, in
Right.
fact, many of the politicians that have talked to us have talked about how they want this process to be devoid of politics, and now there are committees, and we roll
There
with
are other
it, so.
reasons as well for not continually changing who's involved.
Right.
That you can't
Just the
bring
efficiency.
everybody, any new person up to date, and that person missed all the conversations. I mean, there are just so many reasons it's wrong.
Well,
to do that.
I move that we give a vote of confidence to Nick today.
Can we vote?
Yeah.
Do we have
I'll
a
second that.
Okay.
Okay, so, oh gosh, I have to really be paying attention now,
Yes,
that our
you do.
note taker's not
You
here
take,
anymore.
do you want someone to take notes?
I didn't ask for anyone to take notes, we probably should at least keep a record of any,
It's not recorded.
conversation and votes. So, the, motion on the table is to establish a vote of confidence for.
And recommend that Nick stay on the committee because he is an asset that we need.
To Chris Howard in the Speaker's office. Specifically in
Okay.
verbal conversation.
Let's try that again. So, the motion is to, establish a vote of confidence for Nick and to retain him as a member of the group.
Yes.
And then to communicate that are you amending that motion to communicate that information
Verbally communicate that information.
to Chris Howard
Who's
in
going
the
to do the
speaker's
communicating?
office?
I'd be glad to do that. I'd be glad to conference call with you. I do think that the head of our group should be on the call. I'd be happy to join you.
Okay.
And verbal
Okay,
implies
thank you.
just in words, so it can be written or spoken. I recommend both.
Yeah, follow up. Let's find out what he says.
In other words, not just oral or not just written, but all kinds of communication.
Nat, do you agree to all that?
Yes, I
For your
agree to
motion?
all that.
Okay, I'm
Since
gonna.
it's your motion.
See, I'll repeat it again, and you make sure that it sounds okay. So the motion is a vote of confidence for Nick, to retain Nick on the committee, and to verbally communicate, and then to follow up with Chris Howard of the Speaker's office regarding Nick's status serving on this committee. Does that sound good? And that we retain him?
Yes.
Yes.
that we very much want to retain.
Very much want.
Very
That,
much.
For the
emphasis
best
added.
interest of our
So, does that sound okay?
Yes.
You motioned that,
Yes.
you pretty much added the second part, okay, so that's the second, so all in favor? Nick is
We need a nine.
I'm gonna abstain. We need 9
An
people
eight.
to vote,
We
I
need
will be a
nine.
no
You
vote.
can
Okay.
have
There's an
confidence in
So-
yourself.
I'm not gonna vote against
Okay.
myself,
No,
I'm
we
just
can't.
going
Okay,
to choose
so I
not
probably
to
should
vote on
take
this
down,
matter.
hold on, let me,
But do we need a vote of 9? That's the thing. You should vote.
I'm a
You need
voting
nine
member,
oh,
votes.
choosing
there are
not
9
to
here,
vote.
I think that's
You
good.
need 9
Okay.
people to vote.
We've got 9 here.
And then we've got the
Yeah,
majority
you're-
of
you have a
votes, so
quorum.
we.
You
We have a
Yeah.
quorum and we
Meeting
have
with
a
second, I'm
so
sorry.
we can do business.
Second was Elizabeth.
Hold on a second, I gotta,
8 votes for, 1 abstention.
And as to the other part, if there is a replacement that comes tomorrow, do we deal with it tomorrow or we decide right now?
We might have to place that call today.
yeah, okay, so I'm sorry, can I take, cause I need to take that.
It's
to
everybody.
Oh,
Except
okay.
for Nick, who
You
abstained.
abstain.
I probably should, okay.
Well, I do, but probably a good idea to talk a little bit about, like, you know, what happens if the replacement comes tomorrow?
Well, probably when you make that call,
Yes, yeah.
the statement that we will not recognize another member or to replace him, we will not recognize nor allow that person to participate if there's a plan for that person to show up.
Well, we could probably just say, can we just slow this down a little? We just learned it today. You know, we know there's a replacement tomorrow, they're welcome to sit in and observe.
As an
Right.
observer.
You know, but we're reeling with this change, we're in shock, really. And
I like that.
And it's May.
And
Shocking
this is
is May.
very disconcerting to a group that's just really finely congealed.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're hurting more than you're helping, i.e.
Right.
read between my lines. So that, I think we just slow it down.
That's good.
Yeah.
And there's been no indication that a replacement actually has been named. He said he's going to, but.
Well, that's what Jill's email said.
Yeah,
Showing up.
Hers
Said what was-
basically quoted the email that he sent me, which I
Oh,
assume
okay.
she was blind carbon copied on.
If he said there's a replacement showing up tomorrow and that was unequivocally stated, and I'm sorry, I haven't read the email, then that's probably very likely the case unless
Yeah,
that person
nothing has been stated that,
something
that
that
individual.
Replacement
suddenly
won't-
came up.
The replacement won't be joining us until Tuesday.
Yeah,
is
so
what
you've
it's-
got another email.
That's what Jill's email
my
said.
email, Jill's email says.
She's
So-
another one out.
No, that's the one that
This
she
came
sent
from
to
She
me.
sent it to all of us.
She sent it to all of us.
Does the
Yeah.
speaker know who the
Yeah, but
replacement
nobody
is?
took Tuesday.
Presumably.
I don't know. All it says about Nick is
Oh,
he's
you wanna do
been
that now?
removed
Okay.
and the
He may not
replacement
be,
will join us
but at least
Tuesday.
someone there will have to
Yeah.
get a
Yeah, at least that
Do you want me to,
cancels
just
hours.
want me to do it? I can get his number here.
Sure.
Let's do it.
Nick, did you get an email saying you would be replaced?
I'm just writing down what we
Tuesday?
talked about, cause I'm afraid I'm gonna forget.
And then at the bottom, it says a list of people who wouldn't be here Monday, and it says, and Nick, who has been removed and replaced.
Yeah, but I don't, she
So I
doesn't
don't-
specify that a
For speaker.
replacement was going to show up.
Well, she
Well,
said
does.
will be
She
joining
does.
us
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
She does? Where's that?
Uh-huh,
I'm sorry.
at the top. Carrie, with the growing number of members who won't be able to make the Monday meeting, it says Nick has been removed from the ELA 612 work group and the replacement
me,
won't
that
be
doesn't
joining
sound
us
very
until
exciting.
Tuesday.
Somebody knows else on this committee knows about somebody being
I missed
replaced?
that part.
That doesn't sound very
You're the replace, yep, you're right. Sorry.
abhorrent.
They are here. Interesting.
Well, I agree with Elizabeth, the call should be made today.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm getting it, so I'm just not connected to a network, so I don't have my,
Because.
You can get on here though, cause I'm on.
my
Oh.
computer restarted, here, I'll try.
I got right on this one.
Well, I personally don't wish to proceed on the committee that I might be yanked off of at any time. Just because.
Somebody's decided.
That's a fair statement, Danette.
Yeah, it
That
is.
is a fair statement.
I feel that Nick.
Me neither,
is an
actually.
essential part of our work.
Investing a lot of time in, you know.
Appreciate all the
An
comments.
Yeah,
essential
other
part
stuff.
of this committee's
I think
progress.
this has already distracted us enough too, so if, let's.
I'm getting the
Yeah.
number, I'm
We're
getting it
moving
now.
on.
I'm going,
The rest of us are
sorry.
gonna
Sorry,
try.
sorry.
That's okay,
I
we
know.
spent a
No,
lot
I
of
know.
time
I
on this
appreciate
committee on procedural
Yes,
stuff,
we
I've
did.
noticed that.
Okay.
And I still want to know what it is.
Yeah.
with the person if they show
Well,
up?
we'll have to find out what they're saying as well.
Will we know today, you think?
After they make the phone call, that,
Depends on if Chris is in the list.
well, I don't, there's not any question that the person won't be able to participate, because that would mean there would be two people appointed by the speaker
Right.
to fill one spot.
Right.
So there's no way we can count that person.
Shoot, and if the person wanted to.
They want to observe, come and watch.
Right. But not listed?
Yeah, he's going on
Especially not
since
voting.
2015 decisions about students.
We actually have one spot that a person has never shown up, do we not?
It's a parent spot though, not an educator spot.
Is it a parent spot?
Man, the educator is a parent, presumably, although it's a Senate appointed position,
Right.
not a speaker appointed position.
Well, is that the end of this discussion for now?
Yes, except I think that we're going to
Make that phone call.
prior to, unless you wanna proceed without.
No, I think that we
I think
should
we
make
need-
it early because it
Yeah,
gives
I do
him
too.
time to call back if we need to. It's already 1:30.
Right.
And while they're making
Yeah,
that phone
makes
call.
me eat chocolate.
I know it.
While we're making the phone call, do we have a process in place for doing this vertical discussion?
What do you mean by that?
Vertical alignment,
A vertical alignment?
like a voting procedure?
No,
or
not a voting procedure, but are we gonna tighten up the writing strands first? Before are we gonna look through our strands and see if we're happy with everything in our clusters and then start vertically aligning?
We can do that. The one thing I was thinking about was that as we start trying to develop the standards, that might happen naturally as part of it. I could be wrong, but I was thinking that we could be real happy with what we have now for reading, because we cleaned it up already.
Yes,
But then
right.
as we start developing standards, we might go,
Right.
ooh, we wanna tweak that wording a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm thinking it might be a natural part of the process
Right.
anyway.
So
But
you
you
think-
guys let me know. That was just
Well,
where I had arrived at
So
this morning
if
in my
we
head.
start on reading, which we think is pretty good.
Yeah, that's
and
all I
then
have
we'll-
standards
Then
for
we'll tackle
today.
writing, yeah, let's do it. That's okay
That's
with
what I
everybody
started
else.
on already, the literary.
Okay.
And one thing I wanted to say is,
Hi, it's Sherry, I'm so sorry to trouble you, I was actually looking for Tim Jones' office, and go get his, yeah, can I get that extension? Okay. I know, it didn't come up for me either, because it's already off the website. Yeah. I know, exactly. Here, I can send that. Or if you had an extension for Chris Howard, okay, go ahead. Okay, fantastic, and this is the main line? Okay, perfect, thank you. Alright, take care.
I sent out some copies.
that I really like the collaboration of.
Well, we can just try to look now, I mean, if he's there, it's scheduled a time, that
You
would
want
be
to
good.
step out with me?
Yeah. What do you guys wanna do, you just wanna hold tight?
Let's look at
Wanna do
something.
it?
Yeah,
Look at
I'm
something?
gonna,
You wanna see what I have?
Yeah.
Someone see
Yeah.
this?
Have you noticed that they're laser?
Let's drag this back as far as we can.
and that's all that I'm going to say.
Right. Well, I wrote that down, the new South Carolina is clearly here.
It's not melting
I
the
think
chocolate.
they didn't belong to the other RTO.
Out,
And
so
so
let me-
we don't have,
That's probably, hold on a second, it's gotta connect to this too, so.
I'll just go see if I can get them on.
Okay, I'll be right out.
They're really stuck with doing an awful lot with nonfiction and it hasn't been done before then, right?
Right.
Yeah, that is a heavy load for sixth grade too.
I think there just may be a lack of understanding.
Thank you, Sharon.
Sorry.
I may have it here now that I even have the building.
Okay,
Well,
Okay.
I appreciate that.
So-
Sixth grade and you're feeling that.
well, I just think, that's one way to really separate those two, because they're locked together so often that there's especially, you know, they're coming in and there really is.
There is, and that is why I was trying to suggest to them that if they looked at that second cluster in each one, they'd see that that's where it's the whole structure of the piece, which focuses on, like you said, idea, main idea and how that's developed through structure versus theme. It is also developed through structure.
But it's definitely different,
Yeah.
and you really don't look at it.
It's
On the ceiling.
structure.
Oh, the-
He's helping.
Underneath, there's the little
And say,
stand,
what's the right of
there's a
speech,
button,
and say
yeah.
what's his bias.
I had it all the way up because
There's a piece of chocolate.
Nor do you look at it and say, what's this story?
Come on, Kit Kat.
it's just the lovely.
Right.
I mean,
Because they're making
unfortunately, like,
characters.
enough of the book.
So, I don't know if you wanna sit at this or not, but I have, there's a tab at the bottom for each one.
Well, you know, our school district sometimes, they're saying to that
You're gonna miss it every
superintendent.
So there's a tab at the bottom for each one. And I have,
Yeah, the rest of us.
What happens in a person's life,
Right.
you know what I
Right.
mean,
Right.
or conflict
More
between
than one that
people,
told me
how
that's
that's resolved.
okay.
Well, I just,
And there's a
I like ordinance,
See,
South
the-
Carolina,
One on that.
I like
or two
the way they do this.
Excel files at the bottom, the other one is.
And I think that's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea.
I actually like the whole format.
I do too. I
And
do
it's
too.
just, this, every one of them is the same,
It's very structured.
and it's,
I don't necessarily
kind of
copy
aligned by
everything, but
Right.
because I use
Two.
the, so,
I know.
yeah, so what I started with, just so that you know how this is set up, is that, I was trying to figure out the most efficient way to grab standards and have them aligned, because it's extremely time intensive to look at every state standards and go, this standard looks like this standard, looks like this standard, so Massachusetts, well, Missouri, Massachusetts, and South Carolina all had existing crosswalks between the Common Core state standards and their state standards. So I just pulled, I used that Common Core standard on the left side as like the organizational framework, and then I just, I pulled the information from the state standards and just put it in there. Is he not available?
No, I just got their voicemail, they're probably at lunch, so I left a message to call, and I also have Chris Howard's email, and I know he's also in a work group himself, so I'm gonna email him, he probably is.
He's in a work group himself.
And he's so Blackberry, and I'm sure all cell phone crazy, so he's
Is he a committee member?
looking.
Is he a committee member on a work group? I mean, is he one of,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so anyway, my point again was this, that, so, that made it easy, so so I kinda wanna be transparent about what I did, because I don't want it to seem like I favored any standards, but because that structure already existed, also, just to be fair, I'll tell you that I, requested some help from, the legislature to do this. They're like, so what can we do to make your life easier? I was like, actually, what you could do is set all the standards out side by side, because I don't have time to do that. And they're like, we can totally do that. And then when they looked at it, they're like, oh, this is actually pretty labor intensive. I was like, no kidding.
Also, they couldn't do it unless they know the subject.
Well, that was also my point, but that's okay. They couldn't do it. And what they said was, did you know that there are several crosswalks? And I was like, oh, really? Thanks, guys. So, but the nice thing about that comment was, because at first I was like, oh, that's really great. Thanks for telling me everything I already know. But I thought, well, actually, that'll be helpful, because if states already have crosswalks, if I just use their crosswalks, then it'll be easier to line all the standards up so that they look kind of the same. across the way. Of course, Stotsky doesn't have that, but, so I did my best guess, okay? So, if I shrink-a-dink these a little bit, so you can see them all side by side, is that all right?
Yeah.
Like, I wanna get Stotsky a little bit closer to the, so you can actually see, okay, so you see that there. Okay, so, what I want you to do is say, yes, we like this, copy it, or no, we don't like it, let's start with something else.
Ones have like literally the same standard repeated like multiple times. Is that, I think that we should be able to see that fairly easily.
No, I just finished it, so I did not send it.
Okay, but you could.
I could absolutely send it to you.
Yeah.
I just
and
wanted
we
to make
could
sure it
print
was something that we wanted, so
I
like,
think it is.
South
Yeah.
Carolina, for
I'm sorry.
example, has the same thing, like,
you mean
on
from the
this
grade
standard,
grade?
right,
Okay.
right, whereas like Massachusetts, looks like it has some sort of
Well, it says
progression.
analyze literary text, draw conclusions, and make inferences. Analyze text, yeah. Compare and contrast. Let's see what 6th grade says. Yeah, so with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, it's the same. Some of them are like that, yeah.
Okay. That just helps me know, like, yeah.
So if we look at the one that are we looking at it in relation to cite relevant text-based evidence to demonstrate understanding?
So right now, what I'd like you to do is look at it and say, this is something we think would benefit our work. And if it is, if you'd like it printed, then they said that they would help me out since I couldn't get to make copies this morning. They said they could make us a few copies. Now, I'm not sure how many. She did say that there was a limit. I did not say that it's several pages of workbooks. I just said some copies. I don't know how many you'll need. And maybe we'll just try to start with one and then maybe go to the next.
Well, I
If you
have,
don't mind sending it to us electronically, some of us.
Yeah.
well, I have
I don't
all of
mind.
this, but it's in 2 different notebooks, and I'm gonna be flipping just like
Yeah.
crazy to try to find it.
Right, well, that's
so
why
that
I
way
try to do it like
easier.
this, cause my fear was what we would end up doing is having this set of standards here, this one here, and then trying to flip to the page where it seemed like they were the same.
Right.
So I thought if I could lay them out so they were the same, so, okay, so you get the idea that that's standard 1, so they go Common Core 1, 2, 3 through 10, okay, on the left-hand side. And then again, like I said, I just pulled, the crosswalk is across the way there. So what the state said aligned to that Common Core standard is what appears in that box. And also, I guess I probably should clarify. So, like this is standard 1 from the Common Core, right? This is Missouri, you can't see that.
Right.
That's Missouri GLEs. Well, there was actually like 1 box, 2 boxes of Missouri GLEs. Like they said, there's these 2 sets of standards for Missouri GLEs that align to that. In South Carolina, there were 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's why there's all those blank boxes, okay? There might have been a better way to format it, but that's what I can do.
Well, that compare
That's
and
fine.
contrast within and across, that would go on our cluster.
And you're
3.
thinking that we would use this as a place to look at our
Mhm.
standards and say, oh, we've already
So-
got.
There's like language on this, like the same idea, like, well, like if we like look at one of our standards that we have strands, we have clusters, and then we have these other bulleted items underneath, right? And we said those bulleted items underneath would be something like an overarching standard or the beginning of a standard we would work toward, right? So if that's the case, we could look at that bulleted item and say, okay, what do we think what would a 12th grade standard look like? And if we could look at that bulleted item on our list and go to this document and say,
Right.
what language from here could we use?
Right.
Then we kinda have
Right.
3 states, Sanders, Stotsky, and the Common Core to inform that
Right.
And
that
sometimes
conversation.
That makes
Sometimes
perfect
it's not going
sense.
to even be in, like that D, right up there.
Yeah.
That falls under cluster 3, compare, contrast
Uh-huh.
within and across text.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I thought that might be something that would at least help us, and so that the document wouldn't be a forever long, 1 page, I separate out by grade level.
So, I think that's a good idea, because like we start with like one of our little bullets, we'll just find it up here, find the wording we want and write it as for 11/12, right? 11, 12?
Well, I think we said we wanted to do 12, 11, 10, 9, didn't we? Or did we
Yeah,
not?
I thought we were gonna go to 11. 11, 12, because not everybody takes 12th grade English,
I
right?
vaguely do remember that.
Oh.
11, 12?
What about
Because-
6, 7, 8?
Because-
6, 7, 8,
4
9,
years.
10, and 11, 12
Yeah, but
together.
the fourth could be a language arts elective and not
Right.
an English credit. I do vaguely remember this
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah,
We
But-
did, yeah. Yeah, you did.
We've always ended at 11 for there.
Yes.
Yeah, so you could do that 11, 12, because that 12 is not always
Definitely.
required. You wouldn't wanna put anything of great relevance in there. Nope.
right,
Right.
okay.
So would that
So what
work?
would you like to do? Would you like me to get this printed?
Yes.
Okay, I'm probably gonna have to email that or put it on something. I'll find out what
Do
they need
you
to
really
do.
think we need to print it, or could we just take a look at our paper
Go one by one.
and look at our bullet, and then go up here and find where it is and come up with some wording? Come up with wording, so we get another laptop up there, and you just we'll come up with
Well,
wording?
nobody on our side has copies of what you brought today.
Yes.
Yeah, so why don't, it might be helpful if we made
Copies of this.
3 of those and then a handful of these to put in between a couple people,
Okay.
maybe.
And we can
Okay.
make copies.
Are
Let
you
me
talking
see.
about?
Does anybody have?
Yeah, what Jana brought.
All right.
I would like to.
Really just, are we just focusing on reading for now?
Did anybody
I
have?
only did reading.
Yeah.
I did reading,
Yeah.
literary, and
So
reading
really, we just
nonfiction,
need
that's all I did.
the reading literary, this page, right, page 3
Now, this
and
kind
page
of thing
4 is
is
what you're
gonna
talking
take.
about.
Yeah, I figured this would-
Reading and a whole inventory.
I thought it would take us a while.
It's gonna take us
Okay, so.
dozens of days.
Oh, so really it would be just
That's
this
the course.
front page.
Okay, so
Did
see
we
if I
say
can
we're
get this
starting
copied
with
too.
There we go.
writing?
Let me see what they need to do.
This is
You guys
okay.
can go
I
through
think
it.
this is exactly
That
the
is.
same thing.
Do you wanna take this
And I
too,
printed this
or
one
they,
off.
Okay.
or maybe we do
So
that now.
this-
Let me see what they need. Oh, you have more copies?
Jana made a
I've
couple.
got
Wait, okay, yeah.
Oh, she does, we're good.
All right, so does everybody have a copy?
We can share.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that, this is a great idea.
So if you look at the first bullet where it says cite relevant text-based evidence to demonstrate understanding, and we go up there and we find the piece that goes with it, could we carve out the wording of an 11/12th grade, standard?
So what I'm wondering,
We could write it on the dry erase board.
if our goal is to make vertical progressions of these, what I'm wondering is, do we already just cut out the columns that don't have vertical progressions? Like, the South Carolina one has that same wording for
No.
every grade level, so I just don't know that it's gonna be very useful to us.
Well, why don't you
Maybe
just
not.
leave it in until
Sure.
we actually work backwards?
Okay.
Well, why don't we just add to this document our own,
Yeah,
make another column and type in our own.
like right
Wording.
behind it.
Yeah.
Like this, like, you mean like, if we look at this bullet right here, this first one, how do we wanna word it? Based on that information up there, how do we wanna word ours?
Yeah, so put a column
yeah.
next to Stotsky and just say
Yeah.
standard one.
Yes, good idea,
Just have.
unless we need to have
Add a
that,
column.
unless we need to have that up there.
Well, we still can, we'll just tab
Add a
over.
So how many copies do you think we need?
Well, they
to
said
start?
they'd make 15, right?
She might have said that.
She said that.
Okay.
Then we can do 15.
I didn't know she said 15 or she said,
How about she said 50?
I thought
Oh.
she did too.
Yeah, well, 15 will do it.
I'm unplugging from an email and not that I mind you seeing my email, I just prefer that I don't show the email to everybody.
How many pages is that?
Well, they gave us this job. They want us to do quality work, they have to provide us with resources.
I almost wonder what Jim is saying, do we need
We need our
hard copies
resources.
of all of them if we have it projected on the screen and we're only going standard by standard?
Well, you know what, maybe I'll just ask her just to do just 11/12 first.
Jesse did
Yeah.
this job.
I think we ought to do.
Unless you wanna see all of
I
them.
think
Well-
it's gonna be hard to know what we want for 11-12 without looking at the
All of them.
progression, which is why I keep talking about the
Okay.
ones that don't have a progression, to me, aren't
Right.
very useful, because
Okay, I'm gonna
They're saying
disagree
the
with
same
that.
thing. That's fair.
Let me tell you why. If you carve out, you look at 11, 12, and you go all the way down,
Mhm.
you can look for overlaps. You're gonna have some overlap. There are some standards when you get down here at the bottom, there are gonna be
Sure.
overlaps. So you can remove those overlaps before you start spiraling down vertically. You're gonna save yourself some work.
Well, the sixth grade
I see
on
what you're
here,
saying.
it's going to look just like the 11, 12. I mean,
It's
it's
just
just
like
basic
with
same
South
stuff in
Carolina.
it. It will have the same info,
I don't know that bothers me. I mean, we're gonna put it somewhere.
drawing conclusion.
Yeah.
Can you flip back to that?
Could we try it?
She's gonna send this email first, I think.
Yeah, let me send this to her so she can, I just was thinking if we don't need all of it up front and then we end up, this is
Yeah, I see what you're
If you work vertically, you
When I
can
see
see
11,
what the
12,
overlaps are and eliminate those
I
before
can
you
think
work
6,
horizontally.
7, 8.
Huh?
When I see 11, 12 up there, I can think, what does this translate into? What's it
And
look like on
Casey
6,
was
7,
said,
8?
but she was really good at that too, I noticed.
Yeah.
She was very good at that.
I have issues, I'm sorry.
And some of them will be almost the same, but some will be different though.
Yes.
Especially when you get to writing.
I'm scared of that.
Don't be scared, we're not doing it today.
Where are you gonna film it? Yeah, I see, I know the guy in the vertical.
Well, you do have to do the vertical, but if you work this way first, you can say, hey, wait a minute, we don't need this one here, because we've already done it here, and that way you eliminate that overlap.
I just wish I had my other one that shows it. I did, no, I have it in my car. I didn't read it.
I know, there's, I think, a few left.
Oh,
I have my
oh, yeah.
vertical up there. See what I mean? I mean, horizontal. Yeah.
Ah, is that what you're saying?
Okay, would you be okay with it being in like a, like it's all stacked on, 11, 10, 9, 8,
Whatever you want it to run. Whatever's easiest.
it might not print pretty well, let's see how this goes. I started to mess around with it. I was going to try to put the headings on on the top of each page, and then that started really messing things up, so I quit.
I would suggest, and this is just a suggestion, could we leave an empty box on the bottom part? We wanna think about, we don't do 5, but
What's necessary before?
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I kind of think that we
need
we'll
to
have to
think
address
about
it sometime.
if, whenever we get ready to work vertically, we need to think about what a 5th grader would have to know and be able to do to walk in and be successful
Right.
at grade 6. I'm not saying we have to put it, we're not writing those standards.
No.
But we do need to think about that.
And we need to be able to say, here's what we think,
And
have you
that
got
we
that?
need to be able to pass that on to our group before us.
That's true.
I'm gonna tell you that it's gonna come out however it comes out, so
Okay.
if there's a box on the bottom, hopefully there is. Now, where
There'll be room to write regardless.
the, on some of them, like I said, there were some Stotsky standards that did not line up with any of the other standards from any of those states.
Plus, she
And
has
so I
stuff
just,
missing.
I put them at the bottom,
Right.
so that I kept her, for just reading. All of what she's written for reading is in there, it's just not necessarily all aligned. And you'll
Well,
see
and
what I
some of our
mean when you
key
look at
points,
it.
like our number 1's, standard is, for literature is not even in hers.
The site, thorough text of it.
Yeah, so they're gonna be pretty, there are gonna be some differences there.
Isn't that one of the big differences with the
It's more, hers are much more focused on what?
Yes.
And on how.
and more modeling in the 6 through 8 of how to cite relevant text, but not so much doing it, is what I understand.
Probably, there was someone said, can you put that back up, and so there it is.
Okay, see, well, I'm looking at our GLEs. Those all will go down all the way to 6th grade,
Yeah,
just like that.
yeah, it's ugly, I just.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, do we even wanna have it cluttering just our minds, knowing that we're really not gonna use it, like.
Well, I guess I was
Maybe we
thinking
are.
the language would be like, if we're like looking, I felt like if we were struggling for language,
That's true.
then we at least have, possibly 5 examples, depending upon, like, South Carolina, there are several where it says no alignment to that state, to that Common Core standard, no alignment, like, there was never a standard before this that aligned to that, so there'll be a blank box there, well, actually, it says no alignment, but we have the opportunity to pull from 5 different sets of standards for language, so that was kind of my thought was,
And
instead
by
of having to
starting
come up with it on our own, there it is for us, so.
By starting with 12, it's gonna get easier to drop down to 6. Go
Right.
vertically downward.
Alright,
Okay, so,
so if we look at our first bullet,
Cite relevant text-based evidence to demonstrate understanding.
okay, where should I do this? Should I put it in
could you put it directly underneath it? Could you type it underneath?
It's gonna be long, if we do all the grade levels, I'm wondering if I should put it, okay.
What if we, on that document that you made, what if you put a column to the right?
With ours?
I don't know that
Well,
that's
they
gonna
keep
work.
people talking about
Because our,
foundations as a
we're not gonna write one for
separate-
every one of those things.
Yeah, and
That's
so
right.
Linda Shippey
I
said
would
we
maybe
needed
just
that,
start
and I'm
blank.
curious.
I think I would go back to our document.
I just wondering.
Well, I'm afraid it's gonna make this one crazy messy when we try to put
Alright.
12
I would
12
start-
grade levels here.
What if you, I got a good idea, what
You're
if you
up.
start with our bullet point,
Well,
and we revise our bullet point, and then we say it under a new name, you know what I'm saying? Could we
Could be a lot of
start there,
things.
on that first bullet?
I would start a new Excel file, have that be the
Yes.
top line,
Yes.
one line
Just
for,
do it however you wanna do it.
yeah,
Yes.
for each grade level, and then have a tab for each
Yeah.
standard.
Well,
Yes.
whatever we put in right now, if that's not.
I know, honestly, I need it to be as easy as I can to remember.
Because we're not gonna write one for every one of those lines.
Well, and that's okay, but I kinda like the idea that it shows us what
What
we
our
did not
line is?
include and what we did include. Like, you know, like, this is what we pulled from, here's what we came up with, and,
Now ours,
Right.
it's like
We're
a
very
draft
clear.
of ours.
right. This isn't what we're going to publish, whatever we're
Okay.
writing in right now. I mean, our finished product
Well,
later
let's
will
give it a
be
number.
nice.
Yeah.
Question is like, is there anything that, I forgot to ask this earlier, is there anything you gleaned from your presentation when you gave the interim update as far as what they were looking for or anything?
Oh, no, they didn't talk at all.
They didn't talk at all?
No, you spoke and that was it.
That was it?
Yeah. Mhm. It was just presentation after presentation after presentation. Actually, you know, and I spoke, I didn't know I was speaking.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was speaking. I got here and they said you have 3 minutes. I said, to do what?
I watched you and you did a fine job.
And I said, you watched it?
Yeah.
Ugh. So anyway, yeah.
I wanted to see if they said anything else in the other groups. I was just curious about where they were and how far they were.
Yeah. So no, that was it. It was
Okay.
just
No
everybody.
feedback, just-
No.
uh-huh.
Oh, I thought so. I was like, why am I sharing this with you? I submitted more in writing than I could share with you in the 2 minutes that I spoke, and
Well, it
I don't
sounds like
understand,
from the
but-
teacher's viewpoint, you're checking to see that they're actually doing the work.
I guess I think it was just really to be accountable to the public.
That's what I
you know.
mean.
That's yeah.
The law
Yeah.
requires, the law required it.
Oh, I know. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
just
that was
it's just weird. It's just strange. Okay, so what if I put right here then? Because I think that our okay, I'm gonna flip.
Are you-
Okay. No, you don't want it
You're
there.
gonna do, well, you're gonna do that for every grade level too, just,
Oh, grade level.
I think you wanna see the
Oh,
vertical
that's a good
progression.
point.
Like, and that's why I'm thinking, like, if you had a fresh Excel sheet, you could have
Right.
grade 12, grade 11, grade 10, grade 9, grade 8, and then each tab could be a different objective. Like, this is reading standard 1, cite relevant text-based evidence to demonstrate understanding. Each line shows you what that looks like.
So this is
6th,
reading,
7th, 8th,
literary
9th, 10th.
text,
So we are
cite.
committed to not sticking with just grade 12 and going through all of them, but starting grade 11, 12, and then doing 9, 10, and doing the vertical, and then going to the next standard?
That's a good question. I mean, you could do it either way, frankly. I personally would like to see how much work it's gonna take us to do one vertical progression,
To
going
say.
into tomorrow, to be able to really say, as we chart the rest of our work, how long is this truly gonna take? I mean, if we've identified 50 essentially standards that we wanna do this for, how long does it take to do a 6-12 vertical
Right.
progression?
The other thing I'd like to do is think about, I'd like us to be able to go through that vertical progression and say, how do we think we could do this on our own? So do we feel like we could, do we feel like we could split up into a, even just in this room, a 6-8 and a 9-12 group and feel good about it? Or do we feel like it's not, like we don't feel good about it, you know? And I feel like we'll get a feel for that if we work through it together. And then also, I think, for those who are not attached to a grade level, it might help them get a sense of, I feel like I could do this grade level or grade span, and I feel like I could do this grade span. So,
Let's do a 12 to 6 on the first one.
we don't do all of them this way, I just kinda would like to see what does that look like.
Well, and just for example, the very first standard, 6 through 12 is virtually the same, except that 11-12 adds determining where the text leaves matters uncertain. So it's not as though that's not already,
Right.
see, it's pretty much that way. I mean, it's not unlike South Carolina. Well, and I mean, really, because what happens is the spiraling happens with the complexity of the text.
Right, that's what happens.
That's it.
It's the basic concept from
Right.
6th on.
The main
On a lot of
I think it
things.
crashed.
There will
On
be a
most
few
things,
that,
on most
One thing we can
things.
depend on.
Absolutely.
That is technology. It's not
Technology will
being
not always be.
dependable.
I had
Ms. Sauber speaking.
so much trouble with this.
Hi. It's meeting today, actually, and so, yeah, so we just need to get a hold of Chris. Huh? Okay. I need a cell phone. Okay. Thank you so much. You have a good day. Bye.
You know, it really, I hadn't studied these like you did.
I'm gonna
Kim,
call.
You had
Want to
standard
stand up?
form and
Sure.
But looking at standard
Hey,
one,
am I getting
and
this?
it's good practice here, is, you know, when you summarize it, the difference from 6 to 7 is you cite the evidence, and 7 is several pieces of
Yep.
evidence. 8 is the best evidence.
It's very subtle, but it's
Not very, very different really to me.
Those South Carolina?
Huh?
No, that's the Missouri existing standard.
Oh, that's
existing.
And yet, it's distinct enough that for the first time, in my opinion, like we actually were telling teachers, what does this look like at your grade level?
I do
It's-
too,
you know
I
what
think so
mean?
too.
Right.
It actually
Is
gave
that
them something to teach
sixth
to.
graders at least
So-
know that they can at least pull the idea of evidence
Right.
and draw inferences,
Right.
and 7th is more
Now
of
let's
it.
evaluate the evidence, and
Yeah.
now let's make sure it's thorough, and now let's, yep.
Right. So, we may not need to make any changes.
I think we need to add to that.
Just a thought.
Just a thought, just a thought we had a few months ago.
Yeah.
What if we take our bullets that we have and put cite strong and thorough, textual, how about strong and thorough? Yeah.
You know what I like in ours that isn't in this, you know, what wording is cite relevant text-based evidence, because a lot of times they'll cite evidence.
Right.
But it's like, well, explain how that is relevant.
Well, and that you bring up an interesting point, because according to our, the writing on the English 2 EOC, their evidence doesn't have to be
It didn't have to be relevant, it didn't used to.
They could write
No, you're
about
right.
whatever they wanted to.
Right. Now, that's the writing though, but when you
Right.
turn it around and it's selective response answers to multiple, to questions about just reading the text, they did force the students to
Yeah.
pick which is the best evidence.
Yeah.
They said that, no items say that.
which supports.
So
Yeah,
why
which
do it
evidence
in
best
reading?
supports.
Yeah, then you picked the most relevant, so that's interesting.
Okay, so where are we, guys?
Alright.
Want me to flip back, since I hid it from
Sure.
you while I was gone? Okay, so this is what we have for that. for citing evidence.
And I already suggested that I like replacing strong with relevant. Because
Yes.
what strong is a pretty generic word, and what
Right.
we mean by that as English
Right.
teachers is that it's relevant evidence, logically is.
Right. So if we take out the word strong and put relevant.
Do we want to leave the including determining where the text leaves matters uncertain? Because that's the
Well-
distinguished one for 11-12. Or do we wanna do something,
If we leave that
in one of
off,
the other standards?
that,
That final phrase at the end of the current MLS for 11-12 standard one is including determining where the text leaves matters uncertain. And I'm not certain what I'm not certain what that means. No. As I mentioned, it seems to me that happens automatically by selecting the text that you select, if that makes any sense. That's almost like telling people, teachers or educators, you've gotta, the text that's gonna
Choose
leave
text
matters
that allows you to do
uncertain
that.
is gonna be, Faulkner, and nobody's gonna teach Faulkner in 9th grade anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? I
But
just
that,
kinda
to
want-
me, that does sort of articulate like what
But
it is
that's-
that's
yeah.
unique about, I mean, when we graduate them, right, as far as
Right.
that
They
standard
should
is
be able to
concerned, we
do
want
that.
you to be able to do this, not just, like you said, in places where
Right.
it is in your
And to
face,
be
but-
comfortable with, something that is not clear, to be
Mhm.
comfortable with uncertainty, so I get that.
and that's the main difference between that and
It's the
the grade
difference.
lower than
It
that,
is.
is that one phrase on the end.
Right. But I definitely think we need to replace strong with relevant.
So, but the way that the standard reads, so a student can just determine where the text leaves matters uncertain, that doesn't really seem like.
Right, I see what you're saying.
And that's why, if you were looking at it from an AP viewpoint, which I usually do, but what happens is, you really focus your students in AP Lit on the words ambiguity and ambivalence, that you're comfortable with ambiguity and ambivalence, you can deal with it.
I'm not
You
comfortable.
don't. No, a lot of people are not comfortable with it, most people
Well,
are not.
and 6th grade and 7th, 6th is definitely not. I mean,
Right.
that would not be,
When-
that would
Lindsay,
be drawn
Were you
for 6th
suggesting
early.
taking out the word
Right.
determining? and
Because
just
they can't do that.
Including
No,
where the text
absolutely.
leaves
They-
I get
matters?
that, they're pretty, have to be pretty grounded,
that-
have to be-
Yes.
but honestly, by the time you go to college,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'm
Well,
just
even
not
8th
sure.
grade can do it, but
me,
then 6th.
I'm not sure what
it's
that
just like, they're like,
Like that qualification,
You're not
I'm just not really sure what it means, really.
I'm not either,
Because-
that's why I said that.
Mhm.
It seems to me that that's built into the choice of the
Inferences.
text.
Right.
Yeah.
As well as
Yeah.
differences.
Right.
Right.
So if you said something like instead, as well as inferences drawn from ambiguous texts or something, I mean, to your, I don't know.
It's more complex text, because that's
Right.
what, like Heart of Darkness is maybe my.
But I guess there is a difference
That's
between.
easy.
it's just a larger
Yeah,
inference.
I know.
That's what I was gonna say, there
It's
is
a
a difference
larger
between
inference.
drawing an inference from a text that's not ambiguous
Right.
versus drawing an inference from a text that is.
Right.
So-
And I think that's what they're trying to get at, although I agree with you that that's not
This is a larger
particularly great
inference.
language.
So
It's
my,
very, very
Right.
uncertain,
Yeah.
so you have to make a bigger leap.
well, my question is, what do we want? You know, like,
Yeah, I know.
you know, like, do we?
Well, that's why I'm asking if we just
What-
X that final participial phrase.
What I'm wondering is, what do we want from kids? You know, we want them to cite text-based evidence that understanding. Okay, so what does that look like in 11th and 12th grade?
Well,
I mean, does it look like,
But I think it goes back to what Maridella was saying, like, it's in a level of text that is challenging enough that, I mean, it is ambiguous, right? It is, it's not in your face, like, you're being
Complex.
able to
And if you
analyze.
plug in something like in front of the text, increasingly complex text, or like you said, ambiguous text, or whatever, I mean, then
I like
people are gonna
increasingly
look at
complex.
that.
Text with ambiguous
Yeah.
meanings, I know.
Yeah, just increasingly complex text, then you're still, people are gonna say, well,
What
do
does
you
that mean?
increasingly
Right.
complex?
Yeah.
well, and then, yeah.
parentheses ambiguous.
Yeah, I know.
And yet we
Comprehend
leave it
complex
ambiguous.
text indicative of the reading demands required in college. So what are they gonna,
Yeah,
are they
like
gonna do
that's a
that in
cop-out.
college?
I guess,
Yes.
I don't know,
Then
I
we're
guess
trying
maybe
to
I'm
make them college and
too
career ready.
simplistic. I really feel like no matter what the text is, I want them to cite evidence
Right.
to support
Yes.
what the text says and the inferences they make.
Yes.
Like regardless of what the text is, so if it's
Which
really.
means that 11 and 12 would be like 9 and 10, would basically say the very same thing, which I personally have no trouble with.
It says comprehend, I'm just looking at what we wanted, it says we want students to comprehend complex tasks indicative of reading demands required in college, the workforce, or in civic life. So are they gonna come up against texts that, matters are left uncertain, extremely ambiguous when they get into college?
Well, so I would hope that they would come into contact with that in 11th and 12th grade, but we
Okay.
can't make that certain by even writing that into the standard, so.
Well, but to go back to your
But-
assessment point, right, if an assessment is written at that
Yes.
level, then it requires you to choose a text
It's what you
that
want
does
them to
that.
do, what not, what, right? No, well, we were writing standards, what should students be able to do?
Right.
What they should be able to do.
And wait, if you put in there a college level text, everybody would know, this is 11th and 12th
Right.
grade,
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
college, so you
Right.
really can't go there. I don't.
Well, if we take out the word strong and put relevant, could we use the whole thing? Or,
We could, I think relevant, but then eliminate the part after text.
okay,
And then we can
Let's
always
just
come
go
back
for
to
it.
it, I'm
And
sure
add
we
to
will.
it.
let's go for it.
So
And
you're
just make it in a
thinking
different spot.
If we,
Yeah,
but what we
right,
have to be
right,
careful of
right.
is we have to make sure that we don't lower the bar. You know what I'm saying? We wanna keep it rigorous.
I still think it's it's as rigorous as the text that you
Right, it is.
identify to teach.
And sometimes I feel like whoever creates these, they need the vertical thing, because they know teachers want it.
Well,
Tell me how
yeah.
11th and 12th
It's
differs from
different.
9th and 10th.
Well, and from an administrative perspective, if you don't have that, then I don't need to teach this standard, cause you already learned it. That's what happened,
Yes.
that's why it's really
That's right.
important
Oh
to
my
distinguish,
gosh,
That's
you're
true.
kidding.
this is
No.
what
Well,
is
you know
unique
what?
about this grade
If you're that
level.
Right.
stupid, you need to be fired.
Well, no, but
That's the way it is, right?
But it is actually that way. The thing about this one is that I feel like this is one that, I don't know, that the older they get, the more application that we have and we teach into it when there's a need to teach into it because it has been taught. And so I don't have to necessarily explicitly teach it in 11th and 12th grade as much as I have to do patch-up work and gap closing where students do struggle with it. Or when the text is ambiguous, I do have
Yeah.
to teach into that more. Because they have, if we've done it right from the beginning, citing evidence has become part of what they do.
What you do.
You know what we could add then at the end, you could say in diverse literary texts or diverse literary genres. Because there, now, they're going, oh, wait a minute, in 9th and 10th grade, we didn't read much poetry, we read a lot of, I don't know, I'm just trying to get a grip on, you know what I mean, that by the time you finish 11th and 12th grade, it should be across the literary genres. You should be able to cite that relevant evidence in a Shakespeare sonnet, not just in a poem by Robert Frost.
Right. I think it should be added.
Okay, I like
Well,
that.
but you know, the part of that standard that I think is the most difficult, and probably what changes for me is the level of analysis.
Yes.
Like that, it's not really about how much better students cite evidence, it's about how applicable it is to
How sophisticated your analysis.
their analysis. And that, I think, is lacking there. And it is for my students too, because they know that they have to have evidence, so they just put in
Right. But it's
randomness.
always that
It's how
ability to
relevant
go
it is.
back and forth between the specifics and the generalization that they
Yeah.
are supposed to be supporting, whether it's a literary theme or a main idea in an information text. It's still, and this is at that level, I think the reason they put that one first is, if you can't read it, it
Right.
gives some relevant evidence, then you're never gonna get to the big idea.
It looks like to me that it varies in degree of the type of textual evidence. In grade 6, they just cite textual evidence to support, and then in 7, they cite several pieces of textual evidence. Grade 8, you
The quality of the evidence.
It's, right, then you're looking at, the most strongly supports.
What if you said, instead of saying including determining where the text leaves matters uncertain, what if you said something like, including where the text or the author's purpose is subtle or implied, or I'm just looking at some of the verbs we use to characterize
Well,
high
that's
complex
inference.
texts.
That is inference.
Right, but what I'm saying is you could make an inference on Ladybug Girl and Bumblebee Boy, which we read last night in my house, right? And you could make an inference in Ulysses. What changes, right, is the level
Oh,
of.
no, you can't make no.
Fair. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
the level of the text requires a more
Well,
sophisticated
that's why I
inference.
suggested
And I think
having,
that's what we're trying to say. I
It's,
just don't
it's
know how to
level of
say it.
sophistication of the inference.
Yes.
Well, and I like what
That's
Chris
right.
actually
Bigger.
said earlier, when he said, what if we just took out the word determining? Can you go back to
Yes.
Cites
Including
relevant
text.
and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as
including where the text
inferences
matters
drawn from the text,
Yeah, and that
including where
way
the
it's-
text leaves matters uncertain.
it sits better with me just because it's
Yeah, I
not-
like that too, because I
Just
see it that determining kind of
Yeah,
throws you off.
I agree.
Right, cause they're not saying, oh, here's the spot where the text is,
Right, and here's how I determined that, and
Yes,
what I
yes.
determined
Yeah.
should
Right.
maybe have happened.
Yeah,
Right, I would pull
I
that.
think the reason they put
column
determining
way
in
over
there
too, so it
is
doesn't-
because people do,
Yeah, I guess
well,
not really
no,
needed to do
it's
that.
clear to me that this, need a verb. But if it leaves it uncertain to somebody.
Now, you were saying to include other genres in that?
Well, I
or-
was just,
I-
no, I think
yeah.
I think Nick's, I like Nick's suggestion.
yeah.
Okay.
You
Okay.
need a commenter text though still, I know that's too picky.
You're right.
To you,
Between
Way over
including
here.
text and including.
I was like, I see 3 texts, what?
So if we copy that and glue that in grade 10 and take off that ending, would that work?
but, yeah,
You want me to pull up grade 10 and,
Just copy
everything
that.
that I have?
Yeah,
Copy.
let's try it. They used to be
Here.
2 separate EMCs.
I will copy that and then I'll paste it in there. I don't know if I got it all or not. Oh, dang it.
Just drop it.
No, it's putting it in like 5 different cells
There you go.
instead of just in one.
There you go.
and
Driving
then you
me
can
crazy.
eliminate the-
That was my main issue last night, or whenever I was doing this Saturday night.
You were doing this Saturday night.
Saturday, whenever it was. Yeah, it was okay. It was.
What were your
You started and then
kids
you couldn't
doing?
stop.
And the dog, the dog was on her lap.
This will be a fun project, and then all of a
No,
sudden like.
I knew it wasn't gonna be
And
a
you
fun
can
project.
just take the
No,
kids.
I have to have this. I have to help. Okay, so this is what 9-10 says across the board.
It's just pulling off that
And there's no
clause we
stop.
just.
So, yeah, and then there's the GLE, there's Massachusetts, there's.
See, and I'm having trouble
I can't
linking
hear.
Massachusetts and South Carolina to the current
Yeah.
analysis.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it's because.
Massachusetts is kind of combines
Supporting
the
evidence.
theme and the
Yeah.
site-based
Yes.
evidence, which makes sense, but I would argue you do site-based evidence for more than just theme, right?
Right,
You do it for
that's true.
character, you do it
But
for
compare and
plot.
contrast
Right.
ideas when it across.
Now, that's-
Two,
Yeah,
that's.
South
But the
Carolina
inference
one, I think,
piece,
is
I guess, is
okay.
inferences are here, inferences are here.
Okay, gotcha.
That would be my guess.
That's-
I didn't do the alignment, I just copied the alignment.
Right.
Okay,
That makes
gotcha,
sense.
okay.
The only alignment I can take credit for is the stats guild.
Well, that's what I was saying, that there really needs to be somebody who knows what's.
Well, that South Carolina one will go down the cluster.
Well, whoever did it for South
Yes,
Carolina
yes.
is, I mean, like, this, I just pulled it from the one that they used in
Right.
South Carolina.
Right.
And the
So
Massachusetts
whoever
will
did
go
that,
down too.
it's like whoever did it for Missouri.
Well, and I think, I
Or
mean,
maybe
I know
not.
we're on just the first one, but I think that makes sense, like, as we go for each of our standards, we just look at, like, which of those best fits what we intended.
Right.
And then you use that
I-
and wordsmith it.
Yeah, I would suggest that we take a look at 11 and 12, come up with our standard, however we wanna use it, And then once we establish our standard, 11 and 12, we work backwards from that one.
Right, which is what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so from here, what I hear you saying is, we don't like what we see in Massachusetts and South Carolina, cause it does not have a good alignment to our intended
Not for this one.
Right.
standard. Right, so
then this would be site relevant and thorough textual evidence.
So what I did was I copied that one like you said.
Yeah, there it is.
Is that what you want?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's grade 10, is that okay?
It's gonna be hard with that elementary.
Okay, grade 9.
You take care of the rest.
Oh, cause we decided
Okay.
we wanted to separate 9 from 10.
So this is 9 and 10.
Right.
So
What's 8? Can we see what 8
Yes.
looks like, and then we can try to figure out if there's
There's 8.
a jumping point.
I don't know if I can get you to see the whole thing. Oh, this one goes on and on.
It's okay, just go.
Sorry. Well, this one goes on and on.
Yeah,
I don't need- see, theirs is just,
All the R1H, R1H,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
R1H.
It's just
You know, the
so
more I look at this now, I
convoluted.
hate this.
Yes.
I mean, I never really.
Yeah.
Oops, it's not on.
Even though it's on.
I know, how many times you ever.
Okay, so
Right, that's true, yeah, which
Yeah.
committee?
can I see if there's anything over here? No, there's no Stotsky standard.
And you would
for
get the
eight.
report back that said you did poorly on R1H,
Yeah.
and it asked
Yeah.
7 different questions.
And it could be any of those things, you're like, which one is it? Yeah, doesn't help. So, the South Carolina and the Massachusetts are, well, the Massachusetts is weird. Gives, again, I think it's just that giving supporting evidence from the text. So,
Yeah, but why does it stick mood tone in there? I mean, I know that,
Trying to get it.
I mean, that's a different.
It's different on ours.
so I kind of wonder if the Massachusetts is like, this is the thing we're focusing on, and so you give
Like
evidence
which
for that. This is the thing we're
literary
focusing on, so there's evidence, you know, like,
But
as
you're
they
right.
progress.
Right.
So, so the literary, element that we're focusing on, or
This
device that we're
year
focusing
is-
on this year is this,
Yeah.
and that's what you support with evidence,
Right.
and that's why it shows up like that.
And to me, that's
Yeah.
what we wanna get rid of.
Yes,
Because
I
now
agree.
you end up saying, we're gonna learn
We're
lit
always
in
gonna
8th
talk
grade,
about
and we're gonna learn
Yeah.
tone in 9th grade.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're gonna-
No, well, yeah, I don't think that it should work that way. So anyway, I think, is 8th grade exactly what we have for 10th grade?
No, it's
No,
the 8th
this
grade's
one
the
is
most
most
strongly
strongly
supports, and 10th grade
We
is
just said
thorough,
relevant.
thorough.
But we said relevant and thorough, I did not delete that, hold on a
Right,
second.
that's what I'm saying is the difference.
Okay,
10th
so,
grade-
I'm sorry, I need to flip back. So we have in 10th grade, cite relevant and thorough textual evidence. And this one says, cite the evidence that most strongly supports the analysis, okay.
Which I guess you didn't assume that you're doing that henceforth.
So this one, at 8th grade, what we're saying is, you can see all the evidence that's there, you're making the determination of which one is the best, right? And then using that one, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that happy medium between 8th and 9th grade?
See, I was never for separating anyways.
I'm not either.
What do we have
Yeah,
for 8?
I don't see why, if
Well,
we
you-
group 11, 12, we can't group, 9 and 10. Now, Danette would know, there might be more distinct differences, 6, 7,
The difference will be 6.
8. Okay.
7 and 8
Could
will
you
be similar.
copy
on a
that
lot
to
of
the 8th
things.
grade line? So-
That's
and then
six
show
and
us
eight
the
are
other
separated.
screen, so we
That's
can
what I
see
tell
it.
all my friends who teach this. I'm
6,
just-
7, and 8 are separated, that's good.
6 is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't you, just 5 go more with 6?
5 and 6 kind of go together, but 6 is nothing like 7th and 8th. I can put 7th and 8th together and do the same lessons
Can I go back,
almost.
is that what you want me to do?
but
Well,
6
no, leave it
not.
on the screen now so we can see.
Okay, so we can
jump.
see the difference, so
Uh-huh.
that's 9.
And it's maturity
Are we
level.
married
A
to
lot.
separating 9 and 10?
Are you
More
guys
concrete.
putting 9 and
Yes.
10 together?
A lot more concrete.
Yes.
They can't.
I
I'm gonna tell you that
personally would, but-
my biggest issue with having 9 and 10 together is everyone's responsible for everything then in 9th grade and 10th grade, and that's a
And-
struggle for my teachers when we're trying to figure out what do we teach, and then on the EOC, everything is fair game,
Right.
and it doesn't, eliminate, it just makes it difficult for us to make
Okay.
good curriculum decisions, but that's just,
But-
Yeah.
that's from my standpoint, we struggle.
Okay, but again,
agree.
you didn't like the thing where 1 year would be mood and another year would be tone.
Right.
You didn't
Yeah.
like
No,
that.
but what we, no, and I'm not saying that I would want that, but what we did when we rewrote our curriculum to the Common Core standards was we sat down and said, okay, here's 9-10, what would be, most appropriate to be taught at 9th and what should wait till 10th? I don't necessarily like making those decisions on my own when I don't know what's gonna be on the assessment.
Right.
And we have to make those decisions prior to giving the assessment, cause we have to be teaching into those standards first, so that would be the only reason I would wanna see them divided, is so that it's clear, this is what you're responsible for, because we're being assessed, you know, if we weren't, then it
But
could be
what
just
would
fine.
how would 9, I mean, that's a
Right.
question I have, how would, how
And
would
we did
9
not
look
find many
different?
differences, honestly, we identified very few, but there were some subtle differences that we came up with and said, no, Ninth doesn't have to teach this year.
Would you have to have differences for every single
Right.
standard, or could you, for some you do and others you don't, you know what I mean?
That's a possibility.
Yeah, I could see it being more,
Dependent on the,
maybe in writing.
On some, your
Make more steps.
difficulty would be the difficulty of your stimulus material.
right, and that's why I say
For
that about
sure.
the reading, it's gonna be
Right.
just how you spiral up the complexity.
Because on some, the evidence is going to be more apparent,
Right.
than others, so you'd have to.
Well, right, this one in
Because they're all
particular,
codes,
not
11
really
to 8.
different at all, I mean,
Right.
this one is cite evidence, you know, like this one was not the one. I'd say when we start talking about,
We did Telltale Heart, Raven.
I don't know.
We just got through.
Literary
So
devices
maybe you
and-
can
And
copy
research
10
unit
into
on what
9 for
killed
right
Rome.
now, and then I mean, I'm just.
And why don't you copy
Yeah,
10
I don't
into
care if
9
we
right
keep them
now
separate or
and color
not.
it red?
They love it.
If you copy 10 into 9 right now and then just make 9 red and come back to it.
That's so down their alley in 8th grade.
Oh,
That way we can revisit it,
Yeah.
The scary,
I'm glad you're doing this, 'cause I
freaky
need
stuff, they love it.
Oh, yeah,
Really?
that's interesting.
Alright.
I think I see why they had the word strong earlier though, because I think
Well,
they're implying
well,
most
I
strongly
did too,
supports
but I
by the
tried
word
to-
strong
Right.
in the higher grade.
And
Right.
the whole unit
I do
on
like the word
labor.
relevant being put in there
I do
though.
too.
I do too, I think it sounds better.
I think
I think it's more what we need,
It's
because,
life
like
and
she
how
said, you'll see
it
11th and
influences
12th
Oh, I
graders
got
citing
disagreement.
evidence, but
We didn't
then
know
it's,
the,
It doesn't,
the bells.
it's not relevant.
yeah. Which means it's also not strong.
I think
I
that
guess
it's.
I'm wondering, do we wanna
Research on what
throw
the
strong back in addition
They
to
have to
relevant,
roll
to
over.
imply that you're also still
To the class.
citing the evidence that most strongly supports?
Yeah, 'cause see, that's different though, strongly
Right.
supports adverb,
Yeah.
Right.
it's a different kind of
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, citing strong evidence does not have the same meaning to me
Well, you
as
could
strongly
say-
supporting.
Cite
Yeah.
relevant textual evidence, that.
So maybe just instead of to support analysis, that
Leave it,
strongly
right.
supports analysis, I don't know.
Well, but that's your variant.
Yeah.
Your, strong evidence moves in at,
Right, that's the
8th
Right.
grade. That's
My
your
question
variant.
though is then do high school teachers forget that that's required? If
No.
they
I
never
hope
see
not.
it in eighth
No,
grade?
that's what I meant about if you can't give people credit for realizing.
So does it it makes sense to me that if in 8th grade, the focus is on making sure that it's evidence that most strongly supports, so I look at, I have 5 examples here, 5 pieces of evidence. These two they're the best, they most strongly support my
Yeah.
analysis, but then I get up to 9th grade and I have to go, okay, well, I might like those the best, but which ones are the most
Oh.
relevant to my analysis, like,
Mhm.
So you dropped out the word strong, I see what you mean now.
Mhm.
I see what you mean, Nick. It's relevant.
You're just saying it becomes
Yeah.
just, yeah.
in my, because I think, in my opinion, if it's relevant, it's going to
It's
strongly
strong.
support it.
Right, and I think
Okay.
that's inherent in it,
That's
Okay.
fair.
yeah, to me, it would be, and I think surely.
And honestly, it's really the same thing in 8th grade, cause to me, if it's what most strongly supports it, it's the most relevant. But I
Yes,
think
but-
in 7th grade, we're probably looking at, when you cite evidence,
Well, let's do
Is
Could
it-
this possibly work?
is it good?
We give a mercy point.
Hey, I did.
Okay, bye.
Ooh. Is this a good place for us to take a break too?
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
So
I'm
no
not
one was to use a
hungry.
computer, I said, yes, Chris.
We'll wait for you.
And the house is just gonna be small, absolutely from your district.
And I think maybe we'll pick up speed once we see what the process looks like.
Yeah. Well, you're being pretty positive.
I'm trying.
No, I think we will.
After we take
Press release, sorry.
a few steps back tomorrow.
I had thought
And
maybe
after
he'd
we
got it
get our,
wrong.
mojo going.
Yeah.
Get our little routine going.
Well, yes, he has those listed on.
Yeah.
But you know how to.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, I've talked to him on the
Yeah,
phone.
okay.
Where's
Once.
the sign in? She is a sign, oh,
Yeah,
that's.
I texted
up
him
there, do you
Sunday
need it?
to-
No.
No.
Did ever, let's see if.
I
can
did,
sign
I
up.
was number 9 on it, yeah.
Did Heather's, yeah.
I think
No,
so.
probably getting rid of
I
the
think,
sign.
well, there's 9 of it right now, so no, cause we did do it this morning, there were 10 of us. There were 10.
I don't, see, I don't know, I mean, again, I don't know him personally, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's,
If he will.
Heather isn't on there.
She
is he
didn't
being
come back. She
retained by
didn't
the
say
new
no. She
speaker, or
wasn't
what
coming back,
happens,
did
I
she?
just have no idea how that works, like, does he
That's-
slide
that
over
would
to
be
a different
interesting.
job?
That would be an interesting.
And they're still be here
I
tomorrow.
don't know how you could switch.
Oh, yeah, she.
Yeah.
It was in the middle of the street.
She will.
Oh, yeah.
Legally, you can, but.
You bring somebody, I mean, even if they wanted to.
And that was the point
That
that
would be
the legislator that I talked to
counterproductive
said
for sure.
is, when I first asked him, he hadn't even read the bill yet, but he said it kind of it usually depends, I know.
Okay.
Thank you though. He said it usually depends on
We got
whether
the restroom.
it's a standing appointment or whether there's like a specifically designated group, like a time frame designated. And he said what tends to be the case is if it's a standing appointment, then yes, it's an implied power that the person making the appointment perpetually, you serve, I forget the phrase he used, but you serve at the will of like that appointing individual, and you can change that appointment at any point. But if it's a, he didn't use the word work group, but if it's a, you know, if it's a process that has a very specific timeline attached to it, then no, the usual unspoken word of the law is that then you are slated for that process, and then.
To finish the project, whatever it is.
Exactly,
It has
for that
a-
reason.
It has a beginning and it has a
Right.
finish.
Right, and then when he looked at the specific language of the bill, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's just this not.
Ad hoc committee
It
is
is not
opposed
in
to a
there,
standing.
right,
Yeah.
I mean, what he really said is interesting, I probably should have taken this from him. Was that,
When I have more trouble with this.
for the last, Republicans really took over,
And the side
about 10
tabs.
years ago, they used to have a
It's
very
interesting
robust
because
research office.
sometimes
And,
invoices are just
that point
like-
got gutted, you know, with
The sharp
budget
ones
cuts and everything.
Uh-huh.
And
Some of
since
them,
then,
they
they've
just
been
have to
staffing
have
it
spelled
with,
out.
fresh
Yeah,
out
that
of
makes total
college
sense.
kids
This is
who were,
referring
campaign, like,
Right.
aides for people, you know, basically the people that ran their campaigns, they rewarded them with jobs in this research office, and they don't really know what they're doing. And he's like, if they, you know, if they really intended for him to be able, for anyone to have like the ability to remove and replace, that there's standard language that they put in all sorts of bills where they do that, and it should have been in there, and, you know, even if that was their intent, then it's the fault of the research office for not doing it.
Legislation.
Right,
And obviously the
exactly.
legislators don't know that.
Right.
Not now.
Yeah. The one that said I wrote the bill.
It's
Huh?
guarded
Oh.
there.
That one lady,
Gracious.
I wrote the bill.
That was an
She said
interesting.
she knew more about the bill than.
Yeah.
With her dang phone
Which
ringing
may
like.
be true. But that's
I don't
even
doubt
sadder.
Yeah.
That's even sadder than.
Yeah, that was a mess.
Always hard.
And that's
going very well.
It's
Does
gotten so
it?
much worse with term limits, really,
Yes.
because,
Yes, the
you
politics,
know,
we don't even
if you're
really
around,
show.
if you're around, if you.
I heard he doesn't have the
Really got
experience.
rights,
You might wanna.
The inexperience, you mean authority?
No,
No, Nick
he
doesn't have the
experience to fulfill the bill, so why did they appoint him in the first place?
He sent his application and it's through.
So tired
He
of this.
does.
Nobody else? I mean, there are a lot of people.
Well, I
really-
can tell you.
I mean, honestly,
Right, so they're gonna
I know
replace him
people on those,
with.
on that committee, on these
Oh,
committees
if
that
you
don't
were
have
here,
experience.
I don't know what we did about rules and procedure. You're our person, our go-to person. No, you are. And the other thing is, wait till we get to informational text.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna look at you, Karen, we're gonna look at, what's the code,
and she had great contributions.
She did.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are gonna be able to fill in
Mhm.
our gaps that we're great on literature.
Yeah, this is such a load of crap. What can we do?
I don't want to know.
Oh, no.
I don't want to know.
It's gonna get really ugly.
If they,
Not going to make it really ugly.
if they.
Not here, but.
See, and that's another
If they-
reason we need you, because
Yes, yes.
This is a break time.
No.
Oh, good work, Jeanette.
I think I got it off.
Yeah.
Is this off? Somebody tell me. Is that off?
Do you see us on the screen?
No. This is break time. We don't need to be.
Just unplug.
How do I do that? I'm a naughty person.